Hi, you're watching Helen Explains Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. Day 2, You and White Fragility. Now, if you haven't watched my introduction video, then please do so. Click up here, I'll link to it up here, and I'll also link to it down in the description. I really recommend you watch that one first before you get into this one, because I'm going to just jump straight in. I'm not going to give you really any introduction because that video says it all. And this week in part 1, we're going to be covering the basics. So that includes you and white privilege, you and white fragility, you and tone policing, you and white silence, you and white superiority, and you and white exceptionalism. Now, if some of these terms don't ring a bell, then that's absolutely fine, because we're going to be going through them. I'm going to give you a bit of definition, and I'm going to read some extracts from the book, and then also look at the questions that Layla suggests you reflect on. And even if these terms are really familiar to you, then it's always worth going over something again, and you might learn something new, as Layla's take is really direct, really well thought out and explained, and just fantastic in helping you understand how these fit into the overall overarching white supremacy. Day 2, you and white fragility. So white fragility was a term coined by the author Robin DiAngelo. DiAngelo is a white scholar, and in her book, White Fragility, she looks at why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism. And it's because white fragility is a state in which even a minimum amount of racial stress becomes intolerable, triggering a range of defensive moves. It's that feeling that you feel personally attacked by people talking about race because it's uncomfortable for you. We're literally brought up in a society where race shouldn't be talked about. We're not supposed to talk about it, and so when race is brought up, and then when things get hit back to you because you're white, then it can bring up these feelings of kind of anger and frustration, and you can lash out, and it makes you as a white person unable to listen, unable to take in any information, take in the criticism, and unable to have a productive discussion on racism. But as Layla goes on to say, there are two main factors that contribute to the existence of white fragility. So the lack of exposure to conversations about racism, exactly what I've been saying, and then the lack of understanding of what white supremacy actually is. We don't know, we're not taught about it. It's a very hard concept, and also when something's benefiting you, you don't want to have to dismantle something that is then going to make your life more uncomfortable. However, if you're someone who wants to make the world a better place for everybody, then it is crucial that this happens, because that way we can make it a level playing field for everyone. We don't have this hierarchy and this supremacy of one race being better than the other. You will assume what is being criticised is your skin colour and your individual goodness as a person, rather than your complicity in a system of oppression that is designed to benefit you at the expense of BIPOC in ways that you are not even aware of. So then day 2 is finished with the reflective journaling prompts. How does your white fragility show up during the conversations about race? Do you fight, freeze, or flee? Describe your most visceral memory of experiencing white fragility. How old were you? Where were you? What was the conversation about? Why did it bring up the white fragility in you? How do you recall feeling during and after the interaction? How do you feel about it today? Have you weaponized your fragility against BIPOC through, for example, calling the authorities? We had one clear example of that earlier this year. Crying or claiming you're being harmed, reverse racism, or I'm being shamed, or I'm being attacked. How do you feel when you hear the words white people? How has your white fragility prevented you, through fear and discomfort, from doing meaningful work around your own personal anti-racism to date? So this could be not wanting to get uncomfortable, so you don't engage in conversations. Maybe you don't speak up when you can see that something's not right. Maybe your white fragility felt like you were being attacked, so you didn't listen to a conversation, or you didn't change your behaviour when someone said it was you were acting in a racist way. All really, really interesting topics to think about.